slumped to the side, and I started to run out.
So this has not been a very pleasant experience. Yes, ma'am. Well, if I got shot, I'm sure Farah would be the suspect for that. His handcuffs were awfully tight, and I didn't do it.
Execution could proceed.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this whole video, I have a story for you that, what it does, it delivers us some misery in Missouri City. That's the city, not the state. And this story also is deduced in Houston. Really got kind of spoiled with Missouri there, taking it for granted. Let's move past that. This story involves this handsome, charming fella.
Fratta even played to the cameras, wiping a speck of blood from his face after making his accusations about civil rights abuses.
There's some Manson lamps right there. Full on. This is a story which lasted almost 30 years. Till January 2023, when this story came to a very permanent end. With, you know, the old kind of boop. This is a story of a marriage. It's a story of an ex-cop, and it's a story of hiring some people to go do what you want to get done. And then it's a story of, you know, yucking it up after, having a grand old time. You know, some man for one man. Before we get into it, please subscribe to see new true crime videos every week from me to you. And also, I want to mention this at the end of the video, but real quick, there's a lot of bots and scammers going on YouTube in the comments right now. Long story short, folks, I am not on Telegram. Anyone claiming to be me on Telegram, it's not me. And if you get replies in the YouTube comments from somebody who you think is me, make sure to just check for the little tick. When I comment, it will have a little tick beside it. It's happening all over YouTube. It's very irritating. Also, everyone, a huge thank you for all the love and support the That Chapter podcast has received. It is currently number 6 in all podcasts on Spotify and number 1 in true crime. That's just, it absolutely blows me away. Like, this is insane, so I cannot thank you all enough. Now, let's give this whole story a go. So we shall begin, my friends, in a little place called Atascocita. It's northeast of Houston, and was named one of the best places to retire, funnily enough. It is a thriving nightlife that ends at 4 p.m. and is home to over 80,000 people, if you can believe that. So if you were to drive from downtown Houston and take a right, a left, a right, a left, a right, a left, and then a right again, you would end up at 5411 Timbers Trail Drive. There, in that pleasant and leafy suburb, lies a nice 2-story home, a garage, nice garden. And it was there that on the 9th of November 1994, Farah Fratta, she pulled in. 'Twas her home where she lived with her 3 children, the oldest of which was 7 years of age. That evening, Farah had gone out. She'd gotten her hair did at a local beauty salon, and then she pulled into her driveway at about 8 p.m. Her 3 children, they were with the daddy-o at the time, and he was due to bring them back to her home that evening. However, as Farah pulled into the driveway, drove into the garage, parked the car, and opened the door, a man swiftly walked up to her as she was exiting the car, shot her twice in the head. Farah lay bleeding out on that cold garage floor, and the killer fled, running into the passenger side door of a nearby car, which had the engine running, and then they drove away. Neighbors that night just so happened to have witnessed something. They saw Farah back into her driveway, then they turned away, they heard a shot, a scream, saw Farah lying on the ground, and then another shot, execution style. And then, 911 was dialed.
Frank, just saw a shooting, please.
Okay, do you know if anybody's been shot?
Yes, I see the lady. I see her in her garage right now.
Is somebody shot?
Yes. You need to send an ambulance. She's down. There's still a person out there. There's a black gentleman. He's got a black shirt and a black pants. The lady is down in her garage. She's been shot 2 times. There were 2 shots. Oh, dear. Okay.
Farah, she was alive when the medics, reached her. And then they were going to rush her to a helicopter to get her to the nearest hospital. But sadly, it was too late. And she passed away not long after.
Followed by a scream and then another second quick gunshot. And then the suspect was seen hiding by a tree The vehicle came around the corner and picked him up and left.
The investigation, as you can imagine, immediately began, and it started with the obvious. The obvious, right? Means motive. Motive? Well, she hadn't been sexually assaulted, she hadn't been robbed, she still had her purse and her cash still on her, right? So the motive wasn't a sexual attack or a robbery gone wrong. Somebody trying to steal a purse and then bang, bang. It wasn't anything like that. It seemed like the motive was Farah, for her life itself. That was the motive. She was executed. Like, she was shot once, she was on the ground. Execution style, she took another one to the head. It was determined that the killer had been hiding in Farah's her back garden, and then had broken into her home, and then when she reversed into her own garage, the killer came at her from inside the house. They opened the garage door, whipped out a gun. Pretty soon, though, at the tippity top of the list was Farah's estranged husband, Robert Fratta. Robert Fratta went by Bob, and Farah Fratta had been married for 11 years by 1994. And at the time of Farah's murder, they were involved in a pretty messy and painful divorce and custody battle over their 3 children. Bradley, 7 years of age, Daniel, 6, and Amber, 4. In fact, the trial was due in 3 weeks' time. Farah was 33 years old at the time of her death, born in Guildford, England. She grew up in Croydon, South London, and after she would go to college, and then she began working at a travel agency. She began dating an Englishman at the time, and soon became engaged to him, but when Farah Backer's parents, with whom she was extremely close, when they moved to Houston, Texas, Farah, well, she chose to go along with them. Much to the delight of her fiancé. No doubt. Once she arrived in Texas, right, she loved traveling, right? She worked in a travel agency, so she began applying for jobs, and within 1 week, she got a job at American Airlines, working as a ticket agency. Now, you might be thinking, no, it wasn't just her accent, which made everything just sound posh. She was also extremely charming. She was extremely dynamic. She would always have these new and exciting ideas, and everybody got on great with her. And it was through this job that she would meet police officer Bob Fratta. He was a Missouri City police officer. Missouri City was in the southwest, so it was pretty much on the opposite side of Houston from Atascocita. He was a handsome, charming guy, he worked out, he took care of himself, but despite warnings from ex-co-workers about, he's a bit of a ladies' man, maybe, she got involved with him. Pretty soon breaking off her engagement, which she still kept up with the guy back in London. Okay. So she would end up with Bobby Frathouse over here. And they would have 3 kids together. Life was good. Right up until it wasn't good. Now, what exactly happened? I'm not going to get into too much detail here, because it's frankly sick as shit. But Bobby, he had some predilections, I guess you could say, for some sick sexual shit. Now, hey, listen, come on. I'm not gonna kink shame over here. Whatever you're into, so long as you're not hurting anybody else, go for it. Whack away. But Bobby, he deserves to be kink shamed. 100%. He was into coprophilia. That means he liked to eat shit. Poo-poo. Here's something. Okay, so this is from their later divorce filings. I'm gonna read you out something here. He wanted to, quote, wanted to watch his wife engage in lesbian sexual activities, have her defecate in his mouth, urinate on him, and choke him while he masturbated, and hit him in the stomach while he masturbated, and he wanted her to perform such acts every day, on a daily basis. Shit in his mouth. What the fuck? So yeah, stop masturbating over there and listen up, because Farah, she was not terribly keen on that herself. It wasn't really her cup of tea. She was like, I'm grand, thanks. Flashbacks of Mark Redwine over here once again. Bob was like, I need to be eating shit all the time, and when I'm not eating shit, you'll hear me asking, where's the shit? And when that wasn't happening, he would get very mad. He would get very cross. Hence, a divorce. But Bob, he was Tom Petty, and he was not gonna just let her walk away. No siree. And so it would end in divorce. Their marriage, at least something would be flushed down the toilet, am I right? Farah would kick Bob out of the house, but for Bob, this was a game to him. He didn't want to pay child support, he didn't want custody of the kids either, but he did want to drag this out for as long as possible to hurt Farah, hence why he filed for custody of the kids. Farah had detailed all of this in the upcoming custody battle, divorce battle, all of it. Bob was not too keen on all of this becoming public, which it would once the court case began. So, in fact, a few months before her death, Farah called the police, panicking. The police rocked up and she was absolutely hysterical. She said that one night she was in bed, a masked intruder broke into the house, smashing a window, broke into her house and started attacking her with a stun gun, attacking her in front of her children. Then this guy fled. He was never caught. Now, it's not believed it was Bob, but it's believed Bob was behind it, that Bob paid somebody to break into his house and attack his wife in front of his fucking children. Like, turns out that him gobbling up literal shit is not the most disgusting thing about him. And then, so, 4 months later, this happens. And so the detective's eyes, immediately went to the estranged husbands, right? Means, ding, motive, ding. That's a double ding right there. But the problem was, he had an alibi as tight and as strong as my love for the life insurance stance. He was at church in Humble, not far away, with their 3 children. So it couldn't have been him who pulled the trigger. But that didn't mean he wasn't involved, right? That very night his car was searched, and $1,000 was found in Bobby Fratta's glove compartment of the car, which the police were like, it's quite a lot of money to be carrying around. Was it maybe payoff money? Now Bobby said it was for new carpeting. Come on guys, let's need to tear up the old rug. Nothing suspicious. Now, so listen to this. I tell you stories of bizarre, crazy crimes and strange disappearances. And you know what that means? You gotta watch your back. Sometimes it might be best to be invisible from those out there who might be trying to get you. Those mother heckin', BS'n, excuse my Frenchin', dangerous psychopaths on the clackety inter-worldwide web. So, to protect your booty cheeks online, you need to get yourself a very large caliber. Yes, Mr. NordVPN. It's actually all good. NordVPN will look after you. NordVPN is the online service keeping you safe on the internet. With a single click, your IP address is hidden, and you can be in any country you want to be. Anywhere in the world. It's like you're teleporting virtually. It's pretty cool. And with my special link, that is nordvpn.com/thatchapter, you can get a deal that is just for you. Specifically, you watching this video right now. That is a mega discount on a 2-year plan and also 1 month free. And not only that, to commemorate NordVPN's 11th birthday, for a limited time only, you will also receive an additional mystery gift on top. Bonus gift? Actually, I've decided I don't want to do this for you anymore. No, it's too good for you. I'm keeping this all for myself. But I suppose it's fine. Jeez, I'll let you in on it. And let's not forget to mention Nord's Threat Protection, where you are safer than ever before against any kind of malicious websites, those pop-up ads that annoy the heckin' heck out of you, and trackers that are following you all across the web. It's like wearing an invisibility cloak, mixed with Iron Man's suit of armor, mixed with whatever Avenger can teleport, mixed with some pretty cool shades. Use my link, that's nordvpn.com/thatchapter, to get an exclusive NordVPN deal. Thank you again, Daddy NordVPN. Now let's get back into it. He was interviewed by the police that night.
Did you originally have a wife killed? No, I did not. I'll put it this way too. I mean, if anything happens to her, that's one of the things I was thinking about on the way over here. It's like, what the hell am I going to do now? I mean, me battling for custody was also relying on her to be paying me child support at $600 to $700 a month.
Why did she want a divorce?
I guess to sum it up, basically, there was no romance and affection in our marriage. It was more like, I loved her. I provided for her, took care of her and everything, but I guess we just weren't in love with each other, And whereas to me, I was able to handle it and I guess just told her, look, cope with it. What's the big deal? We don't have the best marriage, but it's far from the worst. She wanted to find somebody to put her on a pedestal and file for divorce.
You know, Farah really must have taken a dump in his mouth for the amount of shit he's speaking.
Who hates your wife enough to kill her?
Nobody I can think of. I mean, I can't think of anybody that hates her.
What's wrong with this picture? Your wife lives in an above average neighborhood, or middle income neighborhood. I know for a fact the houses go from probably 90 to 150,000. Very little happens out there, I know that for a fact. And your wife is shot out of the clear blue as she's going in her garage. Nothing's taken from her. And for no reason.
Check her lifestyle. She went out clubbing a lot.
It's kind of odd.
You're right. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
The next morning, Bobby was released, very happy to see the media yapping away.
Not at all. Never had this before. I didn't get to make any phone calls. I didn't get fed until 2 o'clock. I've been under their detention since 9:30 last night. I was beat. So this has not been a very pleasant experience. Yes, ma'am.
You have evidence?
Probably not. No. I mean, they hit you in, chest and kick you in the legs and stuff like that.
Who did those?
One of the sergeants. The only sergeant that was on duty yesterday morning. I asked for a superior officer, but I didn't get one. I was handcuffed to a chair. I cooperated fully. I was handcuffed tight. My hand was turning blue. I mean, this was pretty ridiculous. And like I said, I'm willing to cooperate fully with everything.
How do you think they believe you did it?
Well, if I got shot, I'm sure Farah would be the suspect for that. I mean, that to me is natural. I was totally understanding about that. I mean, I would suspect myself too if I was doing the investigation. That's only natural. I hope they find the guy soon.
And the investigation into Farah's murder continued. The police were full sure Bob was involved in some capacity. But his alibi was as tight as words I can't say on YouTube. He was definitely at the nearby Catholic church with his 3 children. He was seen there. He was there at the exact time his wife was being killed. And so the police began following him, and I mean everywhere, and especially at the gym. There, they learned he'd been speaking to some gym buddies about, quote, knocking her off. Now, they thought he was just bullshitting and had no idea why his breath stank so bad, but then when it actually happens, apparently he said this to over 24 people, and he kept a list of her daily activities. He even mentioned hiring someone, but they just thought it was locker room talk, just guys being dudes. And everyone liked him, they just thought he was blowing off steam. And police learned that when he was in the church at the time Farah was killed, many people remember him being on the church phone a lot. They would remember that as, during the service he would keep running off, and his beeper, remember them, that kept buzzing, so he had to keep using the church phone. What happened then was the police found a notebook in Bob's car, and in that notebook they found the name and number of one Mary Gipp. It turned out that Bob and Mary had been in communication a lot, the night of the murders. Now, who was she? Well, she didn't really give the police anything, but what was even more important was her boyfriend, a Joseph Prystash, ex-con, and he worked out with Bob at the gym a lot. Police began to think he may have been the real killer, but they had nothing to go on. Joe Prystash himself was a former cop, rumored to be involved in murder for hires. But at the time they were getting nowhere. That was until they dragged Mary before a grand jury to subpoena her. I think they were threatening her with charging her with murder, although I'm not exactly sure what they would have to charge her with murder with, you know what I mean? But maybe just threatening her, but it got her to talk and start telling a story. She talked in exchange for immunity. She said her boyfriend, Joseph, had been hired by Bob to help set up the murder, and that Joseph hired a neighbor of his, a kid, 18-year-old Howard Guidry, to be the triggerman. Howard would get $1,000. Joe Prystash would drive Howard to the murder scene, pick him up afterwards, and use Mary's cell phone to tell Bob Fratta when it was done. It was all planned that Bob would be at the church at the time. And Mary, for some kind of odd reason what was going on in her noggin, I do not know, but she, after the murder, she saw the murder weapon and she managed to write down the serial number of that particular handgun. Now, I'm not sure if she knew what was going to happen, that it would come into useful in a situation exactly like this, but who knows. That murder weapon was traced back to a purchase made by Robert Fratta back in 1982. And the funny thing was, the police also had the murder weapon and Howard Guidry already in custody. On the 1st of March 1995, Howard Guidry was arrested after a bank robbery, and he had the murder weapon on him. So, when the police caught up with him, it didn't take long for him to crack and tell the story, even showing police around the exact scene it all happened.
Whenever I was finished.
When you were finished, what are you referring to when you finished?
Whenever I killed the girl, call him, and he'll be waiting by this phone. And that's basically it for here. But he called Bob, and Bob was at church with his children.
Where'd you get the pistol from?
From Joe. I got the pistol from Joe.
Howard, just like before, I'd like to read this to you. Tell me that you understand everything. You have the right to remain silent and not make any statement at all, that any statement you make may be used against you and probably will be used against you at your trial. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Any statement you make may be used as evidence against you in court. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You have the right to have a lawyer present to advise you prior to and during any questioning. You understand that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you wish to talk to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was dropped here about between 5:30, 6, sometimes between there. And from here, I went across. I walked.
Sure, let's walk.
And I walked up to right here. And I stood right here, 38 in my hand. And I waited for somebody to come to the door, but nobody came, but I heard noises. So I creeped around like this, and I checked the door, but it was locked from the outside. And I had the gun in my hand. When she did like this, I pulled the gun up and I shot her once in the head. And she like fell to the side, or slumped to the side. And I started to run out. And as I started to run out, she wasn't really dead. So I turned around, and I closed my eyes, and I shot her one more time in the head.
Bob had approached at least 7 different people, asking them, "Hey, got one for you. Shooting the shit. You kill my wife? Would you kill my wife? Yes, no, maybe, no, oh, okay, thanks." Right. That's one for every day of the week. I would have trouble asking 7 different people for a loan of €10, but here we are. Bob also, just a couple of days before the murders, he took out a worth almost $250,000, because of course he did. Joe Pricedash was also arrested and confessed, and swiftly after, Bob Fratta was arrested too. He was not so talkative, however.
His handcuffs were awfully tight, and I didn't do it.
Bob cared a lot about his image. He was beefed up, sure. So when negative things about Bob were going to come out, well, that was not on his menu. He was not going to pick from that menu. But it sure as shit was on his menu now. All 3 men, Bob, Joe, and Howard, would be found guilty of murder, and all would be sentenced to death.
Lost some of his swagger when in just 50 minutes of deliberations, the jury decided he's guilty of arranging the murder of his estranged wife.
I'm glad justice has prevailed, freedom has prevailed.
The victim's family wept when the verdict was read. So did Fratta's family. The defendant only stared at the table in front of him.
I cannot wait for the day when I see him laying on that table, waiting to get the injection. That'll be justice for me. I know for myself he's gone.
However, 13 years after this case began, the judge threw out Bob's conviction. See, both Howard and Joe would withdraw their confessions, saying they had been coerced, but both had been allowed into evidence. So, Bob went on trial once again in 2009. He was found guilty once again and sentenced to death.
We, the jury, find the defendant Robin Allen Fratta guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment signed by the foreman.
All 3 men were sentenced to death. His appeals went nowhere, and neither did Bob.
Are you involved in it, or do you deny being involved? I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. I had nothing to do with my wife's death at all. I've been professing my innocence from the onset.
Can you see yourself in the death house in Huntsville?
No, not at all.
It's completely off your mind?
It's not even on there, no. It won't happen.
Until January 2023, when his death sentence was carried out. 65-year-old Bob received the lethal injection at 7:25 p.m. and he died 24 minutes later. When asked if he had any final statement, he said no.
Fratta did not make a last statement. He stared straight ahead at the ceiling and did not acknowledge the victim's witnesses at all.
He still was a coward tonight when he was offered an opportunity to at least extend an olive branch to his son.
The other two are still on death row as of filming this video. And so ends the story of Robert Fratta, the story of a narcissist who had some odd enjoyments that he definitely didn't want in public. He cared about his image, literally, too. He spent a lot of time in the gym where he asked some buddies to help him out. He didn't care too much about when it finally was carried out, until it was finally carried out on him. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate being here, watching this whole video. If you want some more of That Chapter, please check out the That Chapter podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find the That Chapter podcast. It's a good few episodes into it now, and the reaction has been incredible. So thank you all so much for the love you've shown. It means the world to me. And by the way, there are so many scams going on right now on all platforms, but especially YouTube. So if you ever leave a comment on any of my videos, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be aware of this, you'll receive a comment of someone who's claiming to be me. They'll have like, the name will be like That Chapter with like an X or something at the end of it. Their profile picture will be me saying you've won some sort of competition. Now, I've blocked about, I'd say 100 of these accounts, but still new ones keep popping up. It's not me. If I ever reply to a comment on YouTube, my one will have a little tick beside it. I have never had a competition, offered a competition. If I ever do, you will hear it directly from my mouth. I am also not, and never have been, on Telegram. So just beware of these scammers that are out there. Thank you once again for watching. I will see you real soon in the next video, or you'll hear from me real soon in the next podcast. But till then, take care of each other, take care of yourselves, because I love you. Mike out.